Hi everybody, it's Jenny from Jenny Wren Designs. Welcome. Today we're going to be foraging for ivy. Ivy is so readily available everywhere. It grows rampantly in the countryside. So we're going to use it today to create a base for our Easter and spring wreaths. So I've come to the perfect place to gather some ivy. We've come through an old railway bridge, so there's ivy climbing up the walls. There's also ivy on the trees, and it's this little secluded spot, so I can quite happily forage without trespassing or being on anybody's land. So I'm very happy. It's better to try and find ivy that's climbing a tree, because this is where you get really lovely long stems and you can generally just pull it off and you'll get a fantastic wreath out of it. There is lots of ivy on the floor, but I wouldn't recommend trying to get this because it's generally quite dirty and also it's very matted together, so it's very difficult to get any decent length. On first glance I thought this was a long piece of ivy, but on close inspection I think it's a bit of bramble with all the thorns. I was going to give it a miss because it's quite prickly, but on second thoughts I'm going to do something with it, especially with Easter coming up. While I was looking for some ivy, which is growing up this tree here, I stumbled upon a ball, so I think I'm going to pick that one up. Right, I've managed to pitch the phone somewhere so I can show you how to strip it. Here's the ivy. Make sure you've got your gloves on. Hold with your one hand, take the other hand and simply slide down. Again, they come off quite easily. The slightly bigger bracts you can just break off. The reason why I don't keep the ivy leaves on the stem is because they dry out and they don't dry out very nicely. So what you want, you just want the stem left. You don't want any leaves on. It's fine if you've got one or two leaves, but it's better to try and take all the leaves off. Now I'm just going to put these. And here we go. Look how lovely that is. That's going to easily make an amazing wreath. Well, here I am near my little love seat that I found, and there's this birch. So I'm going to take some birch for the wreath as well. And when you're collecting it, take the longer, thinner, more pliable stems rather than the thicker stems at the top. You can always use the thicker stems if you want to in a vase to cut off a few branches and display that as an Easter tree. But I'm wanting the more younger pliable stems just to thread through the wreath. Walking along the footpath here, I see there is some curly willow, or something that looks very similar to it. That's going to be super handy for some projects that I have in mind for the future. Right everyone, I'm back from my foraging walk, minus one glove. So if any of you happen to be out on a walk and see a grey glove, that's mine. I've got the bundle of beech, I've got the twisted willow or curly willow. Got a good project for that. I've got a vase that I want to try and do the paint pouring technique in, and I think once that's done I can display the curly willow to beautiful effect. So we'll bear that one in mind, and I can always post links when I do manage to finish it. I've also got the leaves here and I want to try to skeletonize them or bleach them. Again, that's one to watch. Here's a bit of the bramble stem, pretty much been a nightmare to bring back. It's stuck to everything, includes of course my woolly gloves as well, but anyway, we've got that back, and again, that's a project that I want to do. Don't need a lot of it, but I think that will work out really well. And then finally my ivy. Hi, now we're on to the fun bit, making the wreath. There are different techniques that you can use. All of them achieve the same result. Simply take the length of the ivy make it to whatever diameter you want, however big you want the wreath to be, and then you just bind the ivy and twist it around the stem on the one side, and simply do exactly the same with the other side. There we go, that's one, and then you just get the next ivy. You can start at one point, thread it through, put your hand through the wreath circle that you've made, and simply twist it through, or thread it through, should I say. And when you come to the end, just pop it through the last bit, and then you can tuck this one in. There we go. The other technique that you can use is you get the bundle of ivy together and more or less the same length of the stem. This particular technique gives you a much more rustic look. And I would recommend using some wire in this instance, and even easier to use is some cable ties. Now I've got some green, it's really easy to get coloured ones. If you don't have green or brown, you can use black or white. It's just that this is more neutral. Once the wreath is established, you could always cut them off anyway. So I'm just going to fashion a circle again. And you create however big you want it to be. And then I'm simply going to pop the cable tie on. Going to leave it quite loose. And again, don't weave it just yet. Use the remainder of the ivy to continue going round. And then on the opposite side, I'm going to pop a cable tie. Don't put the cable tie too tight, because what you can do is actually thread the bits through the cable tie and build it up like that. So I've got one that side. Now here I can still pop, I've left it slightly loose so I can pop it through there and adjust it. And then now I'm going to the other side, pull that one here, and again just going to pop the cable tie on. And this is just, you know, from the ivy that we picked up. So it's cost next to nothing to make. I always go for walks anyway. It's on my doorstep, so it's really not difficult. In order to secure this one here, I will use the technique that I used on the first one. So I will pop one through, and then I will just take it, and it will actually secure the whole wreath by doing this. I quite like using this technique because I feel it's a lot more rustic. And you can bend it to whatever, you know, make it more circular. Now you can use exactly the same technique. So I think this one here would be a combination of the first and obviously the second technique. And when you bind now, you've got some really good holes where you can actually pop it through and secure it. And the cable ties have just acted as a really good starting point. So you could get the desired shape, and you could get a decent thickness right from the beginning. We're at that point now, we can start tidying up. Snip cable ties off. Trim any thick bits off. Pop this one in there. Now you have a decision to make. If you want to make it bigger if you're happy with the size. So I've just taken a whole lot of birch together like that, trimmed it. Then you get your wire. Okay, this is a tip. In order to wire something, you just create a loop like that over the stems. There's the loop. And then you simply take the wire and you wind it around. And that way it forms a really secure wired stem. But I would say that it would be better to create a whole bunch of them and then just go all the way around the wreath. I don't have enough to do that for this particular project, but I think you can imagine how good that would look. So there you have it, 2 lovely wreath bases. This one would more than likely need a bit more ivy, so I'll have to go on another walk. And this I think is quite nice and thick. Probably could do with a little bit more birch. At least we'll give you the idea of what you can do. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Get out there, get foraging and get making.